welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, hello, I'm Carla, an artist from the Philippines. I paint mostly with watercolor, gouache, and acrylics. I hope you enjoy this video and my other contents in this channel. I would love to hear where you are from and how you practice your craft in the comments below. Anyways, let's get started on this gouache practice. For those who have followed my channel, you might be surprised to know that the red sketch is not made by my favorite Pilot Color Eno mechanical pencil. Instead, it is by a double-edged pencil with a brand name Colleen. One edge is red, the other one is blue. I found a huge stash of these pencils when I visited my grandparents last week, and they don't know where they got it, so I asked if I can just have them instead. The lead is quite soft, so it easily breaks when you sharpen, but I like how intense the pigments are in the pencil. I like to start my painting by doing the main subject first, which in this case is the girl with headphones. I got the reference from Pinterest, which is linked in the description box, so feel free to also try it out. I'm not yet very familiar with gouache, so I try to keep my focus in a particular area when painting. I went with a thick layer of latte brown mixed with yellow ochre for her hair. Most of my gouache are from Arteza, which I bought from a local supplier in the Philippines. I've watched a lot of gouache process video, and they usually start with a light wash all over the painting to set the tone. But I don't know, I just feel like starting small by painting the girl first. In my head, I just want to enjoy the painting process and not think about if what I'm doing is right or wrong. I might regret it later, but I just want to have fun here. I'm using a mixed media sketchbook by Magnani 1404, and honestly, I'm surprised that I like the paper here because I tried the watercolor paper of the same brand but didn't like the result. Maybe I need to explore more with watercolor using that brand. It is also pricey, so I'm holding off buying a new watercolor pad. I'm using some yellow to lighten some portions of her hair since the girl is a blonde or has light brown hair in the reference. I didn't add a lot of water to the paint, so it came out as a dry streak that I thought was a good effect for the hair, but now I regret it. It made the hair look messy, so maybe next time I'll be more careful in adding hair highlights. Now I'm using white for a much brighter highlight where the sun would hit her hair in the photo. Sadly, the white I have kind of dulls to gray, so it didn't really get that effect I want to. But it did add more dimension to the hair. I'll go over that again in the latter part of the video, after I work on the other portions of the painting. Using the same latte brown paint mixed with some white, I'm painting the girl's top, which I think gives really this chill, relaxing feel to the painting. I want to use just the same palette for the entire artwork so that it can look harmonious to the viewer. For the darker portions of the clothing, I mix some burnt umber using the same palette. Honestly, when I'm painting with gouache, I like using flat brushes, but when I paint with watercolor, I rarely use a flat brush. I think it's because using a flat brush works well if you apply thicker paints, and it gives that bold, painterly stroke. Whereas with watercolor, I like more control, so I prefer to use a round brush for washes and for details. It's just my opinion, but I think I should give flat brushes more of a chance now. To even deeper the contrast, I use Winsor& Newton Lamp Black Gouache I got from Fully Booked. I think painting with gouache, you really need to pay attention to the values more than the color. Adding the black brings out the lightness of the mostly brown palette. In watercolor, I rarely use black paint, but for gouache, I'm okay with black, and I think it is also necessary to use it. I just feel like black sucks out the lightness of the watercolor, so I mix my own dark value to be used in watercolor painting. I will try to experiment with mixing my own black in gouache though, just to see if it will achieve the same effect I want. Applying the black gouache using the edge of the flat brush gives such a nice effect. As long as I make the stroke in the same movement of the hair and clothing, then the bold stroke of the flat brush really complements it. The reason why I sketched this photo is because there's a calmness in the girl with her headset on, writing in her notebook, probably lost in her own world. it really just called out to me that time. I am quite fond of just immersing in my own thoughts while writing in my journal. I started journaling during the pandemic, and it really helped me ground myself and focus on my thoughts, my feelings, and trying to make sense of them. I'm using a 5 year journal from Memory Keeper, and I find it enlightening and sometimes cringy to look back at what I have written. I really recommend journaling as it can help greatly with your mental health. I'm adding a little bit of orange to the girl's top, especially for the areas that is hit by the light. Looking at the painting now, it feels too matchy matchy, so I wanted to add a little brightness to some areas. I like checking my work by looking at it from afar to see what could be added or changed. I think I like it better now with a little orange in her clothing. Since my main subject in this painting is the girl with the headphones, I picked a lighter shade for the background so it won't take away the focus on her. I'm using a light apricot gouache mixed with white and diluted with water. Light apricot is also the color I use for her skin tone, so again I'm using mostly the same palette for cohesiveness in the painting. I'm not very good with backgrounds, so I like to keep it simple. I think my goal in this background is just to make sure the elements like the notebooks, mug, and plants will be identified by the viewer. I won't focus much on colors and shadow. So, guys, I made a mistake with the color of the table. Gosh, it's very yellow, right? My bad, I did not check the paint on my brush before applying it on the paper. I would have wanted a lighter color, again, to help keep the focus on the girl. But I just rolled with it, I guess. Sometimes we make mistakes and we have to learn to live with them. The girl's clothing actually has like a checkered print, which I find scary to put in this painting. I'm not very good with painting patterns on clothing, so I stick to solid colors. But I had an idea to use dry brush technique in painting the checkered effect. Kind of like a resemblance of it, but not really very detailed. I use black wash with a clean dry brush and just lightly making a quick downward stroke on the paper. I think it came out really well, and it is my favorite part in painting this. I don't know if that's weird, but little things like this make me happy. I like to go over the highlights with a gel pen, but as you can see, this gel pen is pretty useless. I think it was already dried up when I bought it. Adding hair strands using Prismacolor pencils, I could do this using a detailed brush and gouache, but I like going back to pencils as the last part of my process. Even in watercolor, I like just sharpened edges and adding that pencil stroke to some parts before I can say the painting is complete. I also have Faber-Castell Polychromos, and if you ask me about comparing Faber-Castell and Prismacolors, I would say the Prisma is creamier and softer, like they break more easily with a sharpener. Faber-Castell has a sturdier lead. I like using Prisma for blending softly, while Faber-Castell I like to use for sharpening edges and shadows. I think these pencils are really great additions to your art materials. I got mine from Art Bar because they sell them individually, so I try to get only the colors I know I would usually use. And that's it. That's how I paint with gouache. I hope you find this video and voiceover useful. Feel free to ask questions below or let me know what I can paint next. Thank you and see you next time. Bye!